All right. Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to get started here. I know it's always tough, seminar right after lunch, but we'll try to do our best job to keep you glued to the screen. We have a lot of interactive stuff, so we're going to be talking about the user design, which is becoming very, very important as we look at multiple different medias that we're trying to adopt from our text consumption perspective. So my name is Gurvinder Batra. I'm going to be the moderator on this panel. And I'm going to just give a quick intro on the user experience, and then I'll have the four esteemed speakers take it from there. They're going to get into a lot more depth. So what is user experience? You know, we hear about this a lot. So this term was actually coined by Dr. Don Norman. He described it as user experience encompasses all aspects of end-user interaction with the company, its services, and its products. So it was a very encompassing in terms of how he explained but he was the first one who actually really coined the term user experience. And but in other words, if you talk about it's abbreviated as UX, is how a person feels when interfacing with a system. The system could be a website, could be a web application, desktop software, or in modern context, as we call it, human-computer interaction, HCI. But there could be a number of other things as well. I mean, today's world, for instance, we allocate UX a lot with mobile apps as well. But it could be any kind of experience where, you know, the user is interacting with something, you know, that's where the user experience comes in. And it's becoming, it's been always very important. If you think about Steve Jobs, he used to say, when you're designing any product, 60% is user experience. You know, rest everything comes along if you get the experience right. Now, typically when we think about UX, you know, mostly we think about UX as basically related to design, you know. So we would say it's the interface design or the visual design, that's for the user UX or user experience that we talk about. But actually it's much more than that. There's a lot more things involved in user experience. Just to name a few, if you look at, I mean, especially there's a lot of research goes into it. You know, there's copywriting. There are all kinds of things which actually come under user experience. There's interface design and user design is there as well, but there are more to just the design part of it. Because all these things, factors, as researchers, we work together, is how things come together, when the people who are focusing on it, who can actually bring it together and put it in terms of how the user will be interacting with the product and making sure that you are delivering the right experience. So we're talking about usability, we're talking human factor, design, of course, the utility, HCI, the human-computer interface, ergonomics, system performance, marketing, accessibility. So it's a lot of factors which actually go into the actual design process through which you get the right user experience. So it's much more than just a pure UI or design perspective. Another thing which, you know, very commonly, you know, we connect with similarly, as we said, what is UX about? We talk about interface design and UI design. When we talk about who's responsible for it, we directly talk about the design people, right? Those are the guys who are doing it. But actually, it's everyone. It's not the users. The design people they can actually take the input and actually make it happen. But all the other factors we talked about, those are the ones which are really kind of, you know, making it. So all the people coming together in a room, and they brainstorming about what is the product about, what is this application we're trying to build, whatever form that application may be. And those all people's input actually go into the whole process in terms of before we came out with it. I just wanted to show you a couple of examples. OGC, that's the UK Office of Government Commerce, they spend a lot of taxpayers' money to redo their branding. And sometimes, you know, if you do the branding, you don't bring in the user experience, it can have a very bad impact. They spend a lot of money, they didn't show it to anybody at all, and this was the first time at a big launch party that they take this logo, which they turned in 90 degrees. So this is the first time people were seeing it and had a very bad impact in terms of what they actually were trying to do. Similarly, Expedia had a very experience similar to that when they initially designed their screen in terms of how they were taking the user input. And people used to always get confused in terms of when you're entering the business address. It is the personal address or the business address. And a lot of those things, the actual credit card transaction never used to happen. And they made a very small, subtle change, and that increased huge in terms of sales for them. So all these experiences are all connected with user experience. So unless whatever you're trying to develop, unless you keep the user in mind, it's always very difficult in terms of how to do it. And at KiwiTech, we connect everything together. So for us, when user interface design means it's the designers, it's the developers, it's the testers, it's the business analyst. All of them have to come together to really come up with the right user design. So you have to meet with all the people together to really see how you can come up with the best user interface. ROI is really important. As you see, if there's a user interface going on and you have so many people involved in it, what is end output you're getting at it? Because you're putting a lot of investment in it. And I wanted to play this short video, which will actually demonstrate very well in terms of what the user experience is. So Human Factors is a big organization worldwide. They help in terms of user interface design. And this Susan is part of Human Factors.
User experience is the science and art of designing a product like a website or a software application so that it's easy to use, so that it fits the expectation that the user has for it, and so that it meets business goals. There's a whole methodology around designing a user experience, and sometimes people ask me, is it worth it to do all that work to design a user experience? So let's talk about the return on investment, or ROI, of doing user experience work. IEEE is a professional organization that puts out reports and does research for programmers, developers, and engineers, and they put out an article called Why Software Fails. Here's some interesting data from their article. They estimate that the amount of money that is spent worldwide in information technology is estimated at $1 trillion a year. The percent of projects that are abandoned because they are hopelessly inadequate is up to 15% of all projects. The percent of revenue that goes to the IT group is 5% of a company's total revenue, and up to 10% if it's a financial or telecommunications company. The amount of time that programmers spend on rework that is actually avoidable is 50% of their time. The cost of fixing an error after development is 100 times that of fixing an error before development of the project is completed. Of the top 12 reasons that projects fail, 3 of the top 12 are directly related to what we would call user experience or user-centered design work. And those 3 are badly defined requirements, poor communication among customers, developers, and users, and stakeholder politics. So the kind of work that user experience professionals do, stakeholder interviews, user research, user testing, user-centered design, these are all things that can fix at least 3 of those 12 reasons why software fails. You actually can calculate the savings or additional revenue or benefit that you get from improving the user experience of a product. So let's look at some examples to make this more concrete. First example I want to talk about is, let's say that you are a micro-lending company. So these are often nonprofit organizations that look for donations from people, and then they take that money and they lend it out in very small loans to people around the world who need the money to run a small or home business in order to better their situation. So you have a website and people donate money at your website, but the searching and donating part of the interface at the website is confusing and hard to use. And you have estimated that 50 customers a day are actually abandoning before donating because of the poor user experience. So let's do some calculations. Each customer, let's say, donates an average of $50 over the course of a year. So you are losing $2,500 a day, or $912,500 a year. If you spend $50,000 to fix the user experience issues, and another $50,000, let's say, to rewrite the code based on those user experience improvements, we can estimate you're going to spend $100,000 improving the user experience. It will take you 40 days or a little over a month then to realize the investment, because you've got $912,500 a year that you could improve. So in a little over a month, you've recouped your investment. There are many measurements that would be meaningful. For example, conversion rate. That's the number or the percent increase of visitors to a website who either buy or donate, or it doesn't have to do with money. It might be they take the action you want them to take, like register at the website. Or you might be interested in the decrease in the number or percent of drop-off or abandonment, the decrease in the number of calls to the help desk. Or maybe by making a user experience improvement, you can reduce the amount of training that's required. For instance, if it's an internal software application. Maybe you want to increase the usage of a software application. Maybe you're looking to save user time. Or maybe you want to save development time. Perhaps errors are what you are trying to reduce. Whatever measure you choose, calculating the return on investment is a way to show the value of doing user experience work. Here's one of my favorite quotes from Albert Einstein. I think he said it best. Any intelligent fool can make things bigger and more complex. It takes a touch of genius and a lot of courage to move in the opposite direction. If you'd like your own copy of this drawing to download and print, go to humanfactors.com/ROIposter.asp.
So you can see, like, from ROI perspective, it does take a lot of investment, but I think it all comes back. And that's why in today's world, users or UX is very, very important. With that, I'd like to just introduce our speakers. So we will start with Bonnie. Bonnie is a partner and practice director at Delta Think, publishing and digital media consultancy focused on digital strategy and product development, content and technical analysis, and marketing and customer insight. With more than 20 years of experience in the publishing and technology industries, Bonnie has held senior positions in product strategy, marketing, and market development, customer research, and product management. She has also worked with many nonprofit and commercial organizations to develop and deliver new content products. Bonnie's unique value is her ability to build and execute customer insight methodologies for publishing programs and products. So I'm going to just go through, introduce all the speakers so we then can focus on their presentations. The next will be Pam. Pam is a product manager for chemical and engineering news at American Chemical Society. She's responsible for spearheading the digital strategy to meet the ever-evolving publishing need for CNN on the many delivery channels available. With an in-depth understanding of the multifaceted world of content delivery, Pam develops strategies and systems to streamline production processes and optimize user experience. Pam's goal is to ensure CNN readers can access CNN wherever they want it, when they want it, and how they want it. A graduate from the University of Waterloo, Pam has more than 20 years of experience in the high-tech sector in a variety of roles, with a variety of companies, including Coral Corporation and Bell Canada. Pam has also completed her Master's of Science and worked as a consultant with several companies and nonprofit prior to joining ACS in 2008. Next, we have Brian Mcdonald. Brian is Senior User Experience Designer at Silverchair in Charlottesville, Virginia. He has experience in a wide range of web design roles with core strengths in information architecture, prototyping, and visual design. He is increasingly interested in designing products based on behavioral evidence acquired through user testing. Before joining Silverchair, Brian worked as online design director at Penguin Random House in New York. And finally, at the last speaker, Colin Brady, is a user experience designer at also Silverchair in Charlottesville, Virginia. He has passion for working with people and technology, creating engaging interfaces, and designing beautiful and usable products. He believes the future of experience design will be in a high level of conversation between users and the devices they interface with every day. His background outside of experience design includes advertising, print, and digital marketing. So those are the 4 speakers we have. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through, start with Bonnie, and after her presentation, we're going to have 10 minutes for Q&A round before, so that we can complete that. And then in the end, after all the 4 speakers are done, we're going to have a joint Q&A session as well, so we can discuss more details. So with that, I will invite Bonnie to come up. I can.